Welcome to the Rock is George podcast. I'm your host, George Dionne, and this is episode 35. Thank you for tuning into the Rock is George podcast on your favorite streaming platform. You can pick your platform at anchor.fm/rockisgeorge, or you can head over to our YouTube page. For episode 35, I have guitarist Greg Martin of the band the Kentucky Headhunters. If you're unfamiliar with the Kentucky Headhunters, they're a southern rock / country / blues band based out of Kentucky. They debuted in 1989 with their album Pickin' on Nashville. That album charted in the top 40, and it also won a Grammy Award for Best Country Performance by a Duo or Group with Vocal. They've won several CMA awards over the years. In all, the Kentucky Headhunters have released 8 studio albums, 3 compilations, and 23 singles. They've toured across the country and the world over the years, and recently they debuted at the Grand Ole Opry. In addition to playing guitar and being the founder of the Kentucky Headhunters, Greg Martin has a local radio show called Lowdown Hoedown. He's going to talk about that show. The Kentucky Headhunters recently released That's a Fact, Jack on their own label, Imprint Practice House Records. It's a fantastic blend of blues and southern rock and country, and each of the guys take a chance singing, so they really mix it up. So here's Greg Martin of the Kentucky Headhunters. If I knew absolutely nothing about the Kentucky Headhunters, how would you describe the music to me?
It is a burgoo, a stew of rock and roll, blues, country, a little soul, and it's got a lot of rural sensibilities about it, I would think. We grew up in Kentucky, except for our singer, Doug, who grew up in Arkansas, but we were kind of a melting pot in Kentucky. I mean, you know, we had Chicago blues bombarding us from Chicago, and then from the South, we're getting the Southern music. You know, some people call us a Southern rock band. Some people call us a country band. Jeffrey Lee Puckett, who used to write for the Courier Journal in Louisville many years ago, he called it psychobilly, which there's rockabilly elements in the band too. But it's just there's a lot of rock, there's a lot of blues, there's a lot of blues in it now too. I mean, it's always been there. It is just it's a unique stew, and it keeps morphing a little bit. It keeps changing. The band has got a little heavier, I think. When we first started back in the mid 80s, it had more rockabilly to it, but I think our southern rock blues elements have come out more.
One of the unique things is you guys kind of share the vocal duties, especially on your new album, That's a Fact,
Yes.
Jack. So that kind of makes things a little, kind of brings in everybody's little influences when they sing, right?
Exactly. Well, normally, back in the old days, the lead singer, pretty much, you know, Doug, going back when Doug came back to the band, he pretty much done all the vocals. Then slowly Richard started doing more of the rock, the country. No, Richard's not the country guy. Doug is the country guy. Richard started doing more of the blues rock stuff. On this new album, we just threw caution to the wind. We brought Fred in on 2 songs. I think Richard sings 3 songs. I can double check that. I sing 1, and I don't even claim to be a singer. I used to sing back in the 70s, and then from playing in bands that always had a better singer, I just backed off up from it. The song I sang was actually written in 1973. Richard, Fred, and I, with our cousin Anthony, had a group called Itchy Brother. We recorded that song on a little 45, and I just thought, well, it's time to maybe for posterity, let's go ahead and re-record it now that we can actually keep a groove better. And my slide playing back in 1973 sounded like a cat getting run over by a steamroller, you know. So yeah, the new album is very band oriented. It does show the band in a true light, I believe. It is what it is, man. It's just a fun band.
Do you guys write together as a group, or does everybody kind of bring their song idea in and you guys vote and decide who gets what on the album?
Well, the end result, it is a collaboration. But as we went through the pandemic, we couldn't get together and write, like a normal year or going into a project. Going back to 2019, we had a wonderful touring year. We worked a lot. I don't know, 70, 75 shows for us. We don't try to stay out there all the time. We have families and we have responsibilities at home. Going into 2020, it looked like it was going to be another really outstanding, great year. And we ended up doing like 5 shows. And the last show was at the Birchmere in Alexandria, Virginia in mid-February. And we had 3 weeks off. We were going home, just take care of things at home, and then reconvene in March. And then dates started dropping out, moving, disappearing. Things started locking down. And we ended up maybe doing 9 or 10 shows that year. And our intentions were to get together at the end of the year and do a little pre-production, a little writing, a little jamming together, and come up, see what everybody had been working on individually. I mean, people bring ideas individually, and we'll hash them out in the practice house and work on them there. And sometimes things will just happen from a jam session, like Dumas Walker way back on the first album. That was a gift from the sky, so to speak, from just jamming. But as you know, 2020 turned out to be a crazy, crazy year. I didn't see the guys very much. At the end of the year, we had thought we were going to get together and jam a little bit. I got COVID in November of 2020. So by the time I got through it, it was already Thanksgiving. Christmas was coming. And we said, well, we'll just reconvene in January. And we ended up finally going to the studio in February of last year and just basically taking the ideas everybody had and working them out on the floor. So this album was a little different than most, because usually we have time to get together and come up with arrangements. I mean, back in the old days, we would literally hammer out the arrangements and have a nice little homespun demo. How we had different ways to do that, but we just didn't have the luxury of doing it this time. This was thrown together. It took the first day in the studio was kind of crazy because we hadn't been playing much together and our chops were down a little bit and we just hadn't played. And so by the second day, we started tracking and things came together. But there's no sure way how songs come. Somebody may bring something from home, or something could just spring out of a jam session. As you know, this new album, is there one cover on there, Cheap Tequila, which was written by Rick Derringer, and Johnny Winter had also done that on Still Alive and Well. It was just a song Fred wanted to bring, and there again, Shotgun Effie, the song I sang, it was something we wrote back in 73 and brought forward. How Could I was actually a Blackstone Cherry song. It was a demo that Richard had helped those guys write. We rearranged it, made it a Headhunter thing. I like to say it's a cross between the Rolling Stones, Georgia Satellites, and maybe a Little Faces, and ultimately it sounded like us. But there's no sure way. Songs come in different forms and fashions.
I like the song Susanna. That's my personal favorite. Which one of you guys wrote that one?
Doug Phelps wrote that. His story is we were on the road. He was doing his laundry when he found out that Levon Helms from the band had passed away. And he said it just affected him in a profound way. He wrote that song. And that is, it's very personal to him. It's for anybody that's married to a musician, truck driver, or anybody that travels, that song really does hit a deep spot, because it's pretty special. I identify with it because back in the 70s, I was engaged to a young lady, a really sweet lady, and the music thing got in our way, and it didn't work out. And the music thing would have been a hindrance to us, and that's kind of what that song's all about. Music is our life. It's our blood. That's what we do. We get up in the morning besides paying bills and regular duties. But it's just about a musician and his life, really.
Are you much of a lyric writer, or are you just like, let me put a sweet riff on this?
More of a riffer, I guess. I wrote the lyrics to Shotgun Effie back in '73. I can write lyrics, but I'm a little introverted about that. I could write songs. If I get up in the morning and I don't think about it, I can do it. But I've always, there's a little lazy side to me. I'm in a band with really good lyric writers such as Richard and Doug, and of course Fred too. So I just don't really, if I write anything, there's another project I did called The Mighty Jeremiahs, which was with Jimmy Hall, the singer for Wet Willie. He also sings with Jeff Beck. I wrote some lyrics for that, but that was more of a gospel type thing. The lyrics I wrote for that were more kind of spiritual oriented. I don't know if I'm really a party songwriter or not, really, but I guess I could.
Now, you guys recorded at your own studio, Practice House Records. I would assume that it's a lot better having control over the recording process versus working for a label and having to pay exorbitant amounts of money for studio time.
We do have a label, Practice House Records, with distribution through Bob Frank. But the studio actually belongs to David Barrick here in Glasgow, and we've recorded there forever and ever. I mean, it's like second home to us. I was just there about 2 nights ago doing an overdub for another friend, and we don't actually have our own studio, but that's close enough. We've known David since he used to play play with my stepson. I mean, I've known David since he was 13 or 14 years old, and we watched him grow into a great engineer. So yeah, the studio's here 15 minutes from my house. It's real close to everybody, and that's where we go. Initially, we were talking about going with another label. That didn't work out. That didn't work out at the end for some reason. We just went ahead and decided to release it through our own label and go through distribution. So yeah, the freedom is much better when you do it yourself. There's ups and downsides, but in the long run, I think it's cool. It's a new day. Things are done different. It's not like it was when we started. Our first album was released in October of 1989 through Mercury Records, and things were done a lot different back then. The new model is much different.
Yeah, today the album sells the tour, and back then the tour sold the album.
That's right. Touring is our main income, really, and everything else just kind of works together in the long run. But albums are it's a different day. There's a lot of streaming now. There's downloads and hard copy. I'm not really sure how, there are CDs available of the new album, and I don't really know how many we've sold of that. Now we don't have vinyl on it yet, which is kind of sad. That's something that needs to be addressed at some point. But usually anymore, when a group releases it, unless they've got it really planned out, the album comes later because these pressing companies are so behind. It's crazy.
Absolutely. Well, it shows that the demand is there for a physical product where streaming seemed to be taking over.
Yeah. Yes. And I don't really mess with that. I know a lot of people do. Honestly, if you look around this room right here, I don't know if you can see, but there's see all the CDs?
Yep.
I mean, there's 3 walls full because of what I do on the radio, and I'm just a music freak, and I've got albums behind me, and I believe in hard copy myself. Now, if I get in a pinch and I'm doing my radio show and I need something really quick and I don't have it, I will buy it as a download and have it. I can get it right then. And there's times at the station, I'm doing a radio show and I need a song, and I've played it off of YouTube before. I have to be real careful because a commercial might pop up, right in the middle of it.
Erectile dysfunction commercial.
Yeah, yes. My favorite commercial right now is about Big Lou, meds or something. Have you heard that one?
Not yet, no.
Okay, yeah, Big Lou is selling meds, and I can't remember the punchline on that one, but I was interviewing Greg Koch one night. He's a great guitar player from Milwaukee, and we had the we were listening to the commercials, getting ready to go on live, and it came on, and he was just bellowing. It's crazy. These commercials are nuts. There's one about diarrhea. There's all kind of crazy ones, you know.
And they make it seem so normal, you know. It's, oh, I couldn't go to my kids' play because I have constant diarrhea, and then the side effect of the med is more diarrhea.
I don't know, man. It's nuts. It's nuts, George. It's crazy. Yeah.
So let's get to your radio show. You have a radio program called Lowdown Hoedown on WDNS in Kentucky. What's that show all about?
It's really a blues show, but I take liberties with that genre. Like one week I might play Buddy Guy. I might play B.B. King, Freddie King, Albert King, Otis Rush, Etta James, Ruth Brown, or whatever, Robert Johnson. Now this coming week, I'm going to be playing some Jimi Hendrix Band of Gypsies, War, Buddy Miles Express, and it's going to be a whole different. It's going to be different than last week. It just depends when I get up. The day I do the show, I may just be in the mood for something different, you know. Unless I do have a special guest calling in, Browan Lawler from St. Paul and the Broken Bones is calling in, and so I have to slant it a little bit different on the second hour. But I've been doing the show officially since November 1997. I started another station in Campbellsville, Kentucky, did 2.5 years there as the Lowdown Hoedown, took a break, and then I moved the show to WDNS in November of 2001. And we just celebrated 20 years there. So the show has been going for well over 22 years now, you know. And it was just a vehicle to share my love for music. It's like inviting somebody to the living room without wrecking your house, you know, and say, you know, sharing music. Because I grew up a lot of great AM stations in Kentucky. Yeah, I grew up listening to WLAC out of Nashville that's played R&B and blues. I grew up listening to WLS out of Chicago, WCFL out of Chicago, WOWO out of Fort Wayne. And then growing up in Louisville, I grew up around a great country station, WTMT, rock and roll stations, WAKY, WKLO, and a great soul blues station, WLOU. AM was my first influence. I was born in 53. I came into music age sometime in the early 60s where I really got into music. And of course, the Beatles, you know, listening to the Beatles, the Stones, and all that stuff. And then I moved to Metcalfe County where I met Richard and Fred at the end of 66. And at night, we had these little small radio stations in the area that would cut their power at night. And then these other bigger stations out of Chicago, New Orleans, and different places would come barreling in, you know. And that was an adventure. That was an adventure, man, discovering music. I don't know. The seeds were planted many, many years ago from living in Louisville, listening to those stations I mentioned. Plus, when I would go visit my grandparents downtown Louisville, I would take a city bus downtown, get off at Broadway and 4th. I'd walk down 4th Street to the music stores, to the guitar shops. And there was a showcase window for WKLO right off of Broadway, right off of 4th Street. And I'd watch the DJs do their thing. You know, it was just amazing watching, you know, 2 turntables, cart machines, this great mixing board. It was just like, I said, man, that's got to be fun. That's got to be fun. So I didn't really pursue radio because, you know, started out wanting to be a baseball player. And I got hit by a line drive in about 65. That was it for that. Then the guitar thing happened. And of course, thank God guitar did come into my life early on. The radio it's not my career, but the Lowdown Hoedown it's grown a whole lot. It's grown a whole lot. And eventually it'll be syndicated some fashion, you know.
Is this particular radio station available for streaming? Like if I wanted to
Yes,
listen in for me? Yeah, okay.
yes. Every Monday night from 7 to 10 Central Time, you can stream it at WDNSFM.com, WDNSFM.com, or D93Rocks.com. And we have a good, it streams really well. Plus, there's a really great app for iPhone, Android that you can get for D93 WDNS as well. And so, like this last Monday night, if you have the app, you can go back to the podcast section and listen for about a week. Each show is archived for about a week. I get listeners from all over the world, man. It's fun.
And you're starting to go out on tour again with the Kentucky Headhunters next
Yes,
week.
sir.
This is a pretty big trek. You said you don't play a lot of dates, but I see a lot of dates on there.
Well, we do. Well, you know, for us, I think 70 dates is the magic number, and it can be more. And last year we did 45, but we were crawling out of the wreckage of 2020. We made it through last year okay. A couple of guys ended up getting COVID in September, and we had to shut down for a week and then bring out a sub for another week. With the numbers going down, hopefully, we think, you know, you and I both have.
Yeah. I think you'll be good though. It's looking good.
It's looking good, man. I have to think things are going to get better, you know, and I want to think that. The world is crazy, you know. The world's a little nuts. I think we address that on the new album, you know, pretty well on certain tracks. Yeah, we'll be. We've played 2 dates this year. We'll be leaving this. We play this coming week. I think we play. We got 3 dates this coming week. We'll start the tour. The touring starts this week. This next week. We're going to be out there doing it, man. Promoting. That's a fact, Jack.
How many songs do you have planned for That's a Fact, Jack, on the set list?
Last year we only done one, believe it or not, because the album came out in late October, and we were doing the Christmas song, Let's All Get Together and Fight. We'll end up doing 3 or 4 songs off there. I mean, we play an hour and a half or maybe a little longer, and we've got so many albums, so it's hard to kick songs out. But yeah, we're going to have to do, I'm sure we'll do That's a Fact, Jack, and maybe we'll do How Could I. We'll keep doing Let's All Get Together and Fight. Let's say 3 or 4 by the time we're done. Yeah.
You also got to play the Grand Old Opry for the first time. I mean, you were offered back in 1990, but they thought you were long-haired hippies, so it didn't work out.
Yeah, we were told that I guess our image was just a little too wild for the Opry back in 90, and we were never really asked. I don't remember us being asked back then. And I think there was a reason. I think they just didn't really want our type around, maybe, you know. We were asked a few years ago, back about, I don't know, I did know the year, like 2013, but they wouldn't let us bring our own amplifiers. They made a mistake of saying, well, we only let Brad Paisley and certain people bring. I said, well, we just want to bring a couple small amps. And we said, no, thank you. But then they finally came back to us last year. They were just so easy to work with. We could take our own amps if we wanted to. And it was a great experience. I must say it was wonderful. Our performance will be on the Circle Network in April. It was great. It was great. It's been an adventure. I got to jam with Buddy Guy about a week ago in Louisville. Got to set in with him, and that was a thrill. So, you know, it's just an ongoing adventure, George. It's just you know, you start thinking, well, maybe this thing is winding down. Maybe our day is coming. Maybe our chapter's coming to a close. But then another door open. You go, wow, where'd that come from? You know, it's amazing.
Another artist I interviewed earlier this year played the Grand Old Opry for the first time. It was Jim Peterick of the band Survivor. They did Eye of the Tiger. He and you have something in common. I hear that you're a guitar collector, much like he is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know. I've never met Jim. Did Survivor do the Opry?
Jim did. Jim did as a solo artist.
Did he really? Okay, how cool is that? Yeah, let me show you. I'll show you a couple. Hang on. That's a 58 Les Paul.
Yep. You got a Rickenbacker in there too?
I've got a Rickenbacker in the other room. I've got a 12-string Rick. This is a 58. This originally belonged to Ed King of Skynrd. Then Hank Jr. had it for a little bit. This right here is a 62. No, this is 64. 64 ES335. It belonged to Travis Womack. He was a session player in Muscle Shoals. This guitar has been on Mac Davis records, Osmond Brothers records, Donnie Marie, a lot of recording sessions, Muscle Shoals. This is a 62 ES335 with PAF pickups. This is a 1964 ES345 that belonged to Ed King as well. I bought it from his estate after he passed. This is a newer guitar. This is a Billy Gibbons Pearly Gate model, like number 50. It's aged by Tom Murphy, and Billy's going to sign it for me. And then this is if you can see it, that's my 1957 Strat. And I've got a lot more guitars. I don't have as many. I mean, there's a couple laying here on the floor. There's a Telly and a Strat. I don't know if you can, yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They're all over the place. They're scattered, man. I don't have, Jim has got way more guitars than I've got. And Joe Bonamassa's probably got more than all of us. I've got a lot of newer guitars, but I had a lot more vintage guitars about 10, 15 years ago. And as I got older, I said, I need to start thinning out the herd a little bit. I've got way enough that I can use. Yeah.
What's the most amount of guitars you've had at one time?
Man, I never was. I don't think I ever crossed the 100 line, but probably 75, maybe. Yeah. My wife would have killed me. She would have killed me.
Jim Peterick has about 200. So
I knew he had a lot. Man, I've been listening to that guy since the Ides of March.
Oh, yeah, great man.
And I was listening to that guy before Vehicle. The Ides of March had a record in 1966 called You Wouldn't Listen to Me. And it was kind of a British invasion sound. Because I used to listen to that band. I first heard him out of Chicago on WCFL and WLS. So I've never met Jim, never met him, but we run in the same circles,
He still tours with the Ides of March.
Good for him, man. Good for him. And where's he live?
Chicago.
He's still in Chicago.
Yeah, he's down the street from Dennis DeYoung of Styx.
So you've interviewed Jim, I guess.
A couple times, actually. Yeah, he's
great, man. Well, good for you, man. Yeah, I've never had a chance to miss it. To meet the guy, I'd love to.
You've actually subbed for the guitar player in Lynyrd Skynrd back in the 90s. What was that experience like?
Well, it was a great experience. It was for Ed King, he passed on about 3 years ago. Well, of course, we grew up, everybody in Kentucky, any musician, grew up trying to play Free Bird and Sweet Home Alabama. Give Me Three Steps. We thought we could play it. And I met Ed King in 1992 at the Dallas Guitar Show. It was just a fluke meeting. And he knew that I owned this particular 58 Les Paul I've got. And he wanted to see it. He looked at it and said, Lord, you've been playing that guitar. He could tell that it aged a little bit. And then he asked me to play Sweet Home Alabama. And I attempted it. He said, no, wrong. Then he showed me the right way. And we just hit it off really good at the show. And he told me how much he loved the Headhunters. And he said, I got a question for you. You guys a rock or are you a country band? I said, well, we're really a rock band, but we're country people. He said, I thought so. Because he had heard us on Farm Aid. He said he was in the shower and he heard us do Wishing Well on farm aide. He said, I about broke my neck coming out to see who it was. And we hit it off. And then after that meeting at the Dallas Guitar Show, I was out mowing the yard one day between dates. In this very room, I used to have a fax machine and an answering machine. This was the office area. And there was a message from me saying, hey, Greg, this is Ed. Got a question for you. Broke my finger. We got some dates to do. I was going to see if you want to come out and sub for me. Of course, being younger and dumber and thinking I could do things really better than I probably could, I said, oh, sure. We were off. I thought I cleared the things with our manager and the band. And yeah, sure, go on out. And I went out and I rehearsed with them for a couple of weeks, went out and played about 11 shows. I mean, I did okay. I learned those guys had 3 specific parts, and it's like a machine. If you don't do those parts right, it doesn't mesh together right. So everything I'd always played by them was wrong. I had to relearn everything. But it was a great experience. I love each and every one of them. Actually, in 94, Gary Rosington called me one morning, and another fella had quit. He offered me a gig with the band, but I already had my band, and I thanked him, and I stayed in the Headhunters because that's where I'm supposed to be.
I saw that you did some session work with the guys that did the Safety Dance, Men Without Hats. You were on their Sideways album in 91. That seems kind of an oddball matchup, you and them.
That was. The album was Sideways, and I'm thinking that was recorded 91. That was through Corky Lang, who was a drummer from Mountain, and he was A&R for Polydor Canada. He just called me one day and said, Men Without Hats are going in the studio in about a month, and they want to kind of rock it up a little bit, and would you be interested in coming up and overdubbing some guitar? And there again, being younger, more just ready to run, man. I hopped on a plane, met Corky in New York, and then we drove up to some little studio. I don't know where it was, in Connecticut or someplace. And I think I played on about 3 or 4 songs. I still hear from a couple of those guys on Facebook. They're still around. Yeah. It was a unique experience, I have to say.
Yeah.
There again, man, it's like one of those adventures, man. You think, well, I mean, what else could happen? Then all of a sudden you get an offer to do that. And I remember back in the 80s, because I was playing with Ronnie McDowell's band. And I remember I'm not sure what year Safety Dance was out, but I remember that. I remember that video. That song was huge, Absolutely. It was cool. It was it was another great experience, man. It's music.
Another thing that you share with Jim Peterick is that you won a Grammy Award. You won a Grammy Award for picking on Nashville. And
matter of fact, you see it back there.
All right, awesome.
Yes, back there on the albums. I probably should put it in a safer place, but every now and then when doing these things like this,
yeah,
I'd say Jim has probably won a few more than I have. Probably. How many has he won?
Same as you.
One. Well, hey, we're in good company. We've got one, and I'm sure Jim is like me. We never got into it for the awards. He probably started playing R&B before I did, but I'm sure when the Beatles hit, he was. We all just wanted to get in on the fun, so to speak. But the Grammys are great. We've been nominated 4 times, but we won 1.
What do you remember about making the album Picking on Nashville?
Well, I was still with Ronnie McDowell. I played with Ronnie McDowell. Doug and I did from 1981 to 89. So I was with him about 8.5 years. And we put the Headhunters together in 86 just for fun. Initially, it was just the 4 of us. The same 4 that's together today, put the band together. Then we brought Ricky in for a little bit. That band was initially put together to have fun, to play some dates here and there. But when we started writing songs, We started playing out in Bowling Green, Nashville, Louisville, a couple of things here in Glasgow. We saw that the band had a chemistry that people really enjoyed. And it became apparent that there was something there that we need to take a little further. Initially, I never thought about a record contract or anything like that. How we even done that album, we'd had some songs. We met a gentleman by the name of Jonathan D.W. Lyle. Met him in Richmond, Virginia when I was with Ronnie McDowell. Doug and I talked to him. He put up the money for Picking on Nashville. Initially, it was 8 songs, and it was, see this right here?
Yep.
It was this cassette. This was Picking on Nashville, the very first version of it. We played a showcase. We started getting label interest out of Nashville from Sony Records, was the first person. So we had to do a showcase. End of 88, the best I remember, we recorded the album. We did the little cassette. We played a few dates, and we would sell the cassette out of the back of our cars and at, whatever. Larry Hamby at Sony heard it and freaked out. Said, I got to see you guys live. So we ended up doing a showcase at Douglas Corner. It was, I think it was September, October, 88. And of course, when he saw us live, the band had already matured into more of a rock band. He said, well, God, you guys are more rock. You don't really sound like the album as much. And he passed, but lo and behold, Harold Shedd was in the audience, and he had just taken over as president at Mercury Records, Mercury Nashville. And he told somebody that night, I love that band. I'm going to sign them. And he signed us. So what do I remember, man? I just remember I was still with Ronnie McDowell, and we came in from Florida, and we met, Doug and I were out on the road. We met Richard and Fred and Ricky at Sound Shop in the studio. We done our first 8 songs in like 2 or 3 days. Then after we signed our deal, we cut two other songs, Smooth and My Daddy Was a Milkman, and remixed some stuff, remastered. The deal happened in October of 89. It was released. I don't know how in the God we pulled it off. It was just the planets were aligned right, and the chemistry was right. It just had to be fate. That's the only thing I can figure.
And you're here 40 years later still talking about it, so it worked out for the best.
Exactly, George. It's amazing. It's been a wonderful journey. Music has been good to me and my brothers in the band. Me and Richard, we were talking last night about 9 o'clock. We're going. We're getting older, and we'll do it as long as we can. We know we'll have to slow down at some point, but we're both marvel at the journey it's been.
Now you're out in Kentucky, you grow up in the area and whatnot. I would imagine that you must like your bourbon, right?
Yeah, I don't drink. I still do every now and then. Yeah. Christmas, me and my brother and my cousin got together in Louisville. We sat down, had a little bourbon. Yeah, I think I've got some Woodford Reserve back there, I believe. Is that how you pronounce it?
Everybody says. That's what everybody says. Woodford Reserve. Anybody I talk to from the area, they love that stuff.
Yeah, I've got some of that. Yeah, man, Knob Creek. That's another good one, right?
I got some Buffalo Trace right here behind me.
Oh, I love that. I'm
kind of a collector, so I
was going to say you are. So you are a collector of bourbon, then, huh?
Bourbon, whiskey, rye, Scotch, blended Scotch.
And you just like to have a drink, and you can tell you can distinguish the flavors. I bet you're really good at it.
I don't get into trying to equate it to all these fancy descriptions like, oh, there's notes of toast and a hint of lemongrass and stuff like that. But I could certainly taste the difference between a bourbon and a Scotch. You could definitely taste the corn that's
sure.
And like a weeded bourbon, I can tell the difference between that and a non-weeded bourbon. But I do sip it for the flavor, and I drink it straight, no ice, no mixings.
I do have this unopened bottle back there, and I was going to take it to Louisville back around Christmas, but my brother already had some, so we'll get together at some point. We'll sit around, watch TV, and reminisce, and have a little bourbon.
That's right. It's the
Yeah,
Kentucky way, right?
it's the Kentucky way, man. Back in the, hate to say, but back in the '80s, some of the '90s, I would just drink whatever I could, and it was just about getting a buzz, kind of. I hate to say that, I don't drink like that now.
Right.
I think the good Lord gives everybody a bottle, and some people it takes for years for them to drink it. I finally got to my point of no return. I said, nah, that's it. I'm done with it. But I do it. I can enjoy it now, like you do.
You're wearing a Cactus t-shirt. Is that the band Cactus? Do you know?
Yeah. You know about them?
Yeah. I talked to Carmine a piece not too long ago.
Oh, I'm a huge Well, everybody in our band, we're huge Cactus fans. We were around Carmine in Switzerland. I didn't get to talk to him, but I interviewed Tim Bogart, God bless him, he's gone now, and Jim McCarty, guitarist. Of course, Rusty Day passed away many years ago, but I love Cactus, man. The first three Cactus albums are phenomenal, man. Gosh, yes. We cut our teeth on that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
I don't know.
a lot more bluesy than Vanilla Fudge.
Exactly. And I like the Fudge, by the way. I love the Fudge. The Fudge got a little, there's an album called Near the Beginning, which they do a thing called the break song. And it goes on for like 15 minutes. And that's about as bluesy as I ever heard those guys get. Was a guitar player named Vinnie Martell, I think. Played really good on that. But they were a great band. But as you know, the Fudge was I think they were originally called the Pigeons, I think. And then they morphed, when they signed their deal with Adco, maybe the producer or the label said, you're going to change your name. And the Vanilla Fudge happened. And that made sense. And of course, that first album, You Keep Me Hanging On, it hit the radio around here when we were kids. And it was just like they take these great songs and just slow them down and make them psychedelic, and love that band. Of course, they broke up. Cactus happened, and I think Mark Stein went off to form a group called Boomerang. You ever heard those guys?
I haven't, no.
They did one or two albums on RCA, and that was Mark, the keyboard player. They had some young guitar player in that band. He was like 15 or 16. He was amazing, man. Really good. You can find, just go out on YouTube and listen, look for Boomerang.
Yeah.
But then, of course, these guys, they went on to do Cactus, and it was crazy. I believe Tim and Carmine were going to try to get together. No, I know what happened. After the Fudge, they were going to get together with Jeff Beck.
It was Beck, Bogart, and Peace. Yeah.
Yeah. And the first time it didn't work because there was a car wreck. Jeff was in a car wreck. So Cactus was formed. And then 72 or 73, they formed Beck, Bogart, Peace, and did the one album. There's a live album too, of course, from Japan. But yeah, love Cactus and all the offshoots. Great player.
He's still playing in them. He's still playing in Cactus. He's still doing Vanilla Fudge. Carmine's still out there keeping him alive.
Yeah, I think Paul Warren is playing guitar for Cactus now. Maybe, is that right?
Unsure.
Yeah. Great band. Carmine, great drummer. Of course, we've lost Timmy. Timmy's gone now.
Yeah.
The old Cactus singer, Rusty Day. He went away. I hate to say it, he got murdered over a drug deal in Florida way back.
Crazy.
Yeah. Unfortunately, but I just happened. This was a Christmas present. I just happened to thought, well, I got to take a shower. At least I want to look halfway presentable. And that shirt was on top, and I grabbed it. Yeah.
Hey, I had a great time talking to you today, Greg. That's all I got for you.
George, thank you.
I really appreciate you coming on, man. Once again, I want to thank Greg Martin of the Kentucky Headhunters for coming on the Rock is George podcast. Be sure to check out their latest album, That's a Fact, Jack, streaming now on all major streaming platforms. If you like what you hear, head over to Amazon.com and order a copy. Make sure you're supporting the artist. For more details on the Kentucky Headhunters, head over to KentuckyHeadhunters.net. Be sure to check out Greg's radio show, The Lowdown Hoedown, Monday nights, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Central Standard Time at WDNSFM.com. I also want to thank John Lappin of Lappin Enterprises for making this interview possible. You've been great. I've been George Dionne. I'll see you again soon.